Please and welcome today Andy and Ashley from Black Veil Brides for Scuzz meets Black Veil Brides. Right, we're gonna talk about the career up to date, but mainly we're gonna get around to Wretched and Divine, the story of the Wild Ones, the new record that's coming out in January. Right, we start this interview the same way every time. Who were the people that made you want to be in a band? So who were the vocalists and bassists that made you want to be in bands?
Can I name a few? Or
yeah, by all means.
I guess vocalists for me, Mike Ness, Dave Vanian. I mean, even like people like James Hetfield and Gene Simmons, but anybody that had kind of a more aggressive sounding voice when I was a kid. But I mean, then obviously that towards the punk stuff like Stib Baders and those people. But I just liked unique, aggressive voices.
Yeah, God, for me it was showmanship in general.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess first as a kid, Michael Jackson was it for me.
Amazing.
Out of the hard rock.
Amazing.
Out of the hard rock and metal thing. I think Michael Jackson, when I first saw him, was like, as a performer, I was like, oh, I'm totally stoked about that.
With you having a movie coming out, I was going to ask you about Moonwalker later as well,
good.
so it's good that we've got it out of the way now.
But then after that, discovered Kiss and it was all over. So.
Right. So when did the concept of Black Veil Brides first hit you when you were putting it together?
Probably when I was, a little kid, thinking about all those bands that I listed before. I mean, I always that's all I ever wanted to do. When I was a little kid, I used to want to have a full set of instruments in my bedroom, not because I wanted to play them, but because I wanted to put cardboard people behind them so that I could have a band full of people.
Right.
It was my only thing I ever wanted to do, was just be old enough so that I could be in a band. That was my biggest goal in life, was to be of the age that I could be taken at least seriously enough that I could get into a band with other people, because when you're 11, it's hard to convince a bunch of adults in Kentucky that they should be in a band with you. But for me, I was always just drawing and sketching and making little stuff and writing little crappy songs when I was a kid, basically Misfits rip-off songs.
Yeah.
And, but I think like everybody, and so probably around age maybe 15, 16 is when I came up with the name and kind of started the process of what eventually became this band. But my first high school battle of the bands, I was in a Veil Brides.
Oh, amazing! So it was from the start. Were you in a band pre Black Veil Brides, or? It
was called Beer Sack, and it was
nice.
It was a. I desperately wanted to have.
Was this a Bon Jovi thing?
No, I just wanted to have a band that it was. I liked the name because it was my last name, but it was also a strange thing. I didn't want to go by my real last name, but I wanted that to be the band name, and I think I wanted it to be some sort of weird crossover psychobilly band that didn't really pan out, kind of like a Demented Argo meets Motley Crue kind of thing. But I don't know if that worked out.
No, it's an odd combo to say the least. So, moving from Cincinnati to LA, there's a perception on this side of the Atlantic that LA is kind of strewn with people trying to chase broken dreams. Were you worried about that, moving there so young?
I don't know. I don't think I necessarily thought about what other people were doing. It was I think that I wanted to go to Los Angeles because I knew that there was going to be, if I ever was going to have a chance at meeting kindred spirits or people that wanted to do what I wanted to do, I had to go somewhere where that was a prevalent thing, and there wasn't any rock and roll scene where I was from. There was no like-minded people, maybe one or two, but they were either, had to join the military or, were going to work as mechanics, which nothing against those trades, but I wanted to be on stage and be in a rock band. So I moved to LA with really no leads on anything. It wasn't like I had met people and then moved out to start a band. I was basically just lived in my car and kind of just did nothing. I mean, I would go to 7-Eleven at the end of the day and eat the taquitos that they were throwing away, and I slept in my car. We once the beginning formations of the band started to come together, we were able to get a rehearsal space, and I lived in there for a while, or lived in the parking lot, and just but I always believed very strongly that this was going to work, and I think it's that general sense. I don't have a strong sense of when. It's not a sense of self. I don't know. I don't know when I don't ever think that something's not going to work out.
Yeah, it's a fearless
I always
attitude.
assume that everything is going to work in my favor, and maybe that's why things tend to go well, because I don't allow for the possibility for it not to work out. I didn't really account for. I dropped out of high school and didn't really account for this not working out in some way.
Yeah, there was no plan.
So this had to happen.
No backup plan.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the plan.
And how easy was it to find people to share your vision?
very difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know, but our whole band's transplants from the Midwest, so we all came to Los Angeles, and like you said,
Right.
there was a fearless attitude about it. I mean, we had, like, individually, we each had that dream and a goal in mind, and like I said, like kindred spirits, and finding someone who's like-minded like you, we thought that's where you have to go. Even the same, you know, where we're from in America, you go to Los Angeles to try to find people who think like you, who look like you know,
Right.
who have the same sort of vision. So around that sort of same circle and scene in Los Angeles, I mean, it's a little difficult to find the same people with the vision that you want to do, but that's kind of where you want to end up, you know.
And for you guys as a band, like, was it easy to find people that were all like had that gang mentality?
Well, yeah, once we met right away, I mean, we were on the same pages because, like, I was already in Hollywood in bands doing my Motley Crue-esque type of thing,
Right.
the kind of band, you know, in Misfitsy or whatever. And so when we met, we got on the same page, like, well, I want to do this, you want to do this. Well, it's the same thing. Let's just share the vision and let's make this happen. So that's how it came together.
Were you ready for Knives and Pens to boot off on YouTube the way that it did?
Absolutely not. I sometimes get credited with having done something, I guess, intelligent or smart there with that video. When you wouldn't say that someone was a genius or if they fell into a pot full of money. You know, like it was all based on a lie, basically. I mean, the story there is that I had met the director, Patrick Fogarty, in a time where I had not yet formed a band. And so he saw me and he was like, "Hey man, you look very interesting. Are you in a band?" And I was like, "Of course I'm in a band. Yes. Of course I have a band." And you know, and he's like, "Well, I
Don't work in
And
Walmart
it's the
looking at
greatest
this.
band that you have never seen.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's a really great band, and we're awesome, and we have a lot of songs." And he's like, "Oh, well, great. I do music videos," and I was like, "Cool, that's awesome. Well, here's my information." And one day, you know, assuming that anything would ever come of it, but then a couple weeks later, he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, man, I got this time off. Do you think that you'd want to like do a music video?" And I was like, "Of course, yes, I would love to do that, and I have a band too." And then I got off the phone. I was like, "Oh." What do I? Yeah. So I literally I knew one guy who had moved from Ohio out to Los Angeles, who I think at the time was just professionally smoking. I don't think he had any other real aspirations. But I was like, "Hey man, do you want to pretend to play guitar in this music video?" And then I knew a girl who was friends with my ex, who was just like kind of this girl drummer who was kind of known in the area as being a girl drummer. And I was like, "That's kind of cool." And then there was another guy who didn't show up in this video, his name was Alan, and he was meant to be in the video, but his girlfriend's dog died the night before.
Oh, man.
And so he left, and I think that he regrets that decision.
He cusses that dog on a nightly basis.
Yes. And we made the video and we put it up online, and with no real, it wasn't like there was this clamor to see our stuff. You know, there was a little bit of a swell of fan base online just from the few songs I'd put up. But I mean, and again, there's some stuff that was in it like that is credited as being an intelligent move, like to wear all white. And I go, "Oh, that's interesting and ironic." That was just because the wall was already painted white in the studio, and we didn't have any money for costuming. So it's like, you know, some of those things that are really fun and organic stuff that happened. And it just caught on with kids right away, and I think that it's because of how genuine and because the message was very clear, and it really made people feel something, and I'm very proud of it.
So something that I've picked up already, and like something that I don't think is known enough about your band, is there's a real like DIY ethic. Absolutely. There's like a real grassroots punk rock way of doing things. Does it bug you that people don't take that into account on a outside of the BVB army?
No, I don't think so. Because we know, I mean, for the vast majority of, I mean, up until very recently, we printed all of our own merchandise, and we would go and hand out flyers, and we did everything on our own. To read that we've been created by a corporate machine,
Right.
or to see that, you know, people say that we're made by, you know, these T-shirt companies or whatever, I find that interesting. It just means that people are buying our merchandise. And the fact is that there's not a band in the world that isn't selling out. If we're selling T-shirts, we're going to be the best at it, because the fact is, the minute that you make something that isn't a song, you're selling out, because that T-shirt that you make for your indie band does not play a song. So therefore, you're promoting something and merchandising something. We like to make it fun. So just because we happen to enjoy merchandising and we enjoy giving our fans the opportunity to wear what we wear and to look like us or to have cool T-shirts or everything else, it just means we're having fun with it. We make merchandise because we like it, and we hope that our fans like it too. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Talking about the video for Knives and Pens, it's kind of like the art of deception that got you in with that guy. Do you remember the earliest gigs that you guys played as a band? So when it became less like that guy looks like that like now I've got to put together a definitive band and play.
Yeah, the first show that Ashley played in Black Veil Brides, and our first show is what we really think of as Black Veil Brides. was we couldn't get booked anywhere in Los Angeles. Nobody would book us anywhere. So the only person that did, and the only people that did, were our friend Richard Villa and Tony Alva, the skateboarder. And so Tony Alva has a skate shop in LA, and basically they just allowed us to play their parking lot. And our first shows in Los Angeles were at the Alva skate shop, just propped up on some egg cartons with like black balloons behind us and stuff, and a couple hundred people in the parking lot, and like that was our first experience. And through that, then we started playing shows at the Whiskey and all that stuff. But really, for a while, we were just playing in parking lots.
Were there a sizable amount of people from the get-go?
Yeah, and surprisingly so. I mean, I don't think that anybody really expected when we played our first parking lot show to have like
we had a young fan base like right away.
Yeah.
No one else believed in us, but I don't think they understood it. Like when we first started, like sonically, when we first came out, even on the Sunset Strip, they didn't really understand the sound and get the image, but they just didn't tie it all together. But our fan base believed in us from the beginning.
Is that something that's been like a constant through Black Veil Brides? Like people not getting it, but you're only your own?
I think so. I think that, but more and more, I find it funny that the number of people who talk negatively about the band for the same reasons that other people love the band. It's a very interesting thing. You can have Alice Cooper write an essay for the Village Voice about why we're the best band out there today, and then you can have someone that is a big fan of Alice Cooper or some guy in a like some message board or whatever use those same reasons as why we're the worst band. And to me, the dichotomy of that is what has always been a fun part of our band. I mean, we're not concerned with it. I think people sometimes dwell on the polarization and how we're, kind of the people love to hate them or love to, but for us, we just have fun with it. I mean, I think that it's sometimes funny to see that stuff, but we don't dwell on it.
I don't know anyone that is aware of your band that doesn't have an opinion on it.
That's true.
And there's no one that like goes, Black Veil Brides are okay. Do you know what I mean? There feels like there's no middle ground.
And that's fine. I mean, to me, it's like I would prefer. I don't think anybody wants to be like a bowl of sugar-free vanilla pudding. Like it's something that you're like, all right, if it's there, I guess.
Non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's like, I guess I would always prefer to be something that is a strong taste. Something that people either love it or hate it. And I think that we all are those kind of people. We all have very strong personalities, everybody in the band. So collectively, as Black Veil Brides, it kind of makes sense.
So when Set the World on Fire came out, it's weird to hear your story on that side of the Atlantic, because the first time that I became aware of you was when you were put on the Murder Dolls tour and ticket sales boosted significantly to a point where people were going, what just happened? Did it feel like there was people waiting for you on this side of the Atlantic when you first came over here and did those shows?
We had no idea. I mean, I think we knew because of online stuff, but I don't think we knew. We were.
It's a big surprise how much people love hard rock and metal over here, and us.
Yeah, it was honestly. I mean, it was something that in the States we were really. It took us a long time to cut our teeth, and we were touring in clubs and bars and doing this stuff, and then that's what was funny because it did. I guess it did kind of appear like we just kind of came over here and everything was great. But we at the time had been like really, and honestly, that Murder Dolls tour for us. We were excited because we were fans of the band. So, like, we were getting all this press for having overshadowed the headliner or whatever, and we were just happy to be there because we were enjoying the show and getting to play with a band that we all listened to.
It's like to watch Die My Bride every night.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and we know all the words, and I'm holding up signs to Joey on the side of the stage of what songs to play. Like, it's interesting is that we only ever we did, I think, only one supporting tour ever in the United States.
Oh, really? Who was that with?
From first to last.
Wow, what an odd bill!
Yeah. Right before they were done, and actually, Matt is one of my best friends in the world.
Right.
But it was definitely a very strange thing. But the only reason that we only did one is not because we had this like immediate demand for it. It's because no one would take us on tours, so we had to go out and do these headlining tours and just take other bands out with us because there was no options. We would go and do a headlining tour at a 100-seat club.
Yeah.
Because we had no option, we wanted to play, and so we just had to go out and
intimidation? Were bands intimidated to take you out, or what did you think that the reason was?
I don't think I'll ever know. I know that when we went on the tour with From First to Last, in those days, I mean, we're playing in clubs, but we're bringing a kabuki curtain and we're bringing fog and all this stuff, and it's like, it's rough to have that when you're just guys who are wearing t-shirts and like singing about how your girlfriend broke up with you a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It's hard to justify having
breaking the stage
us go out there,
smashing stuff. I smash my bass at every end of the show.
Or breaking bones, and like especially in those days, like I'm cutting myself on stage, and like we were really full on like Dead Boys lives in your church in those days, and it's like you can't really, and there's the other fucking curtain and everything else, and it's like that we're going on 1st to 5, and then it's like,
And they're like, how are you gonna follow that? You can't follow
so I
those
think
guys.
that word kind of got out pretty quickly that that's not a thing that you want on tour with you.
Have you felt it growing internally?